So Moon goes back to his shelter yesterday, and when we left off, and it's all torn apart. Pieces are all over the place. He goes back to fetch his Pat's gun, which happens to still be there, and he thinks that maybe Sanders has been out there tearing it apart. He talks to Mr. Abrascato, who leads him to believe that. Mr. Abrascato says the Moon's messed up, and sounds like Moon's dad fought in Vietnam, and Moon talked to Hal about it. Hal's like, well, why don't we ask my daddy about what happened in Vietnam, because Moon just doesn't really understand what would cause his dad to make him live out in the woods like that. So that's about where we left off. Ooh, excuse me. And the last thing that Moon talked about with Hal is he really wants to go call Kit, because he misses his buddy Kit, and he wants to make sure Kit's okay. And Hal's finally like, fine, we'll take you to the phone by like the laundromat or wherever they're gonna go. So that's where we pick up chapter 35. We stopped at a store not far from the clay pit. Hal looked up the number for the hospital in Tuscaloosa, put some money in a slot, dialed on the phone, and then handed it to me. I felt my stomach become jittery as I waited for someone to pick up. After a few seconds, a woman answered. Bryant Memorial, she said. Is Kit there? I asked her. Hal shook his head like I had done something wrong. He took the phone from me and spoke to the woman. Hey, that boy they found on the road who's been in the news, Kid Slip? Yeah? He's a friend of ours. Yeah. Hal nodded with the phone squeezed between his chin and shoulder. He there? I asked. Hal shrugged. Close to a minute went by before Hal spoke again into the phone. Okay. Yeah, we'll call back later. He hung up the phone. They said he's resting. He can't talk right now. Whew, I felt my stomach grow calm again. So, he's probably okay then, right? Sounds like he's fine. We'll try again in a few days. Give him some time to rest. Hal said he knew of a place to get parts for the truck. We drove through the countryside until we came to a field with wrecked cars. I walked with him as he looked under their hoods and inside of them. After a while, we came to an old police car with a blue light still attached. Hal climbed onto the roof and sat with the light between his legs. He pulled and rocked until it popped loose. And then he stood and lifted it up until all the wires snapped and he had it free. What do you think about this? He said to me. I think it looked good on top of your truck. I said, you damn right it would. We took the blue light back to the clay pit and worked under the shade of the equipment shed, installing it. It was close to dark by the time the unit was glued to the roof and the wires were taped along the side of the truck and under the hood to the battery. Mr. Mitchell came up from the clay pit and parked the front-end loader. He was watching us when Hal got the light to work for the first time. He shook his head and took a swig from a whiskey bottle. How you like that, Daddy? Man, you boys are going to get us all thrown in jail. Hell, Hal said. Well, I went and talked to that store owner today, I said to Mr. Mitchell. Oh, yeah? He replied. Yeah, Hal said. He pointed at me. He's about to have the law come down on us. Well, what did he say to you? Said Pat got messed up in Vietnam. Mr. Mitchell nodded. I can see that. I didn't take much to it myself. What was it like? Well, a lot of people dying is what it was like. All wars are that way. I think the difference with Vietnam is that he had lots of people that the government made go over there that didn't want to go. Pat must not have wanted to go. He always said he didn't like people telling him what to do, especially the government. Wish I knew more to say to you, Moon. Stared across the clay pit at the tops of the pines, gauging the breeze. It doesn't much matter now. Maybe one of these days when you decide to get back to civilization, you can find some more people that knew him. Maybe they'll give you some answers that you need. Come on, Moon, Hal said. Let's go over to the house and get something to eat. We got some Spam and Doritos up there. I looked over at Hal. I've never had Doritos. I know. It'll make you forget about your past. Come on. We went mud riding that night with the blue light on. Whenever the water and mud slid off our windshield, we saw the clay pit walls glowing with an eerie blue. Need some noise to go with this, Hal said. I like it all right. Back in the trailer, we lay back in bed and listened to the rain pouring down outside. Images of the flickering blue clay pit stayed in my head. Hal? What? Your truck gonna fill up with water? Nah, we got holes in the floorboard. I thought of the shelter Kit and I had made far away through the darkness and wondered how it was holding up. I imagined that some animal had crawled into it and found a snug home. When I thought of myself lying in that cramped space with leaves and pine straw hanging close to my nose, I felt my soft mattress as a blanket, and I was glad to be where I was. Hal? What? I don't know what I'm going to do. What? Not everything. Aren't you going to go live in the forest with Kit when he got better? What if he doesn't get better? I don't have anybody to go with him. Well, most people would rather sleep in a house than buy things at the store. Kit likes it out there. Kit likes anything you tell him. Like, you're the only guy I know who ever made friends with him. How come? I don't know. Because most people at Pinson thought he was a wuss. What's a wuss? Like a crybaby. He's not a crybaby. I know. I just didn't know him before. Nobody else knew him either. He's always going to the doctor. But I think he really liked it out at the forest. I know he did. I was just kidding with him. One of the bloodhounds whined outside the window where it huddled under the woodpile roof. You know, I said, I don't see anything wrong with having a real house, as long as it's in a forest or next to a clay pit. Hal yawned. Ain't nothing wrong with staying warm and dry. That's what I want one day, Hal. I want a house trailer drug off into the forest with no roads going to it. Well, how are you going to get it out there? I'll plant trees in the road after they roll it in. Crap. Maybe you could come live out there with me, since I'd have that house trailer. It'd be fancy living. Cover it with leaves. We'd never get caught. What the hell will we do all day? I sat up and looked at him. What do you mean? Wait, shh. Hal said to me. Go wake up Daddy. I lowered my voice. Rope swings, and guns, and traps, and trees, and fishing, all kinds of stuff. About living with Daddy. Suddenly the perfect world I imagined was gone, and everything was gloomy. Oh yeah, I said it. You already got a house right here. Clay pit and all. Hal rolled over and looked at me. Moon, I don't expect to be out here running around for too long. Sooner or later, I'm going to have to hit the road or go to hell about it. I ain't leaving Daddy, so I guess I'll let them take me away then when they come. I stared at him. What I'm saying is, I ain't trying to figure out what I'm going to do, because I already know. And I ain't really got much of a choice about it. I nodded. I'd rather be in hell a while than living out in that forest or walking around some road somewhere, he said. I lay back down and I stared at the ceiling. Then I spoke the words that I'd never thought I'd hear coming from my mouth. Well, if I have to be all by myself, maybe I'd rather go to Hellenweiler with you. Chapter 36. I spent the next 3 days helping Hal and his daddy in the clay pit. If Hal's daddy didn't need the front end loader to fill a truck, we made trails through the forest with it, using the giant shovel to push a path 10 feet wide. Afterwards, we'd get in the truck and Hal would see how fast we could run on that new track. On Saturday morning, Mr. Mitchell brought us football helmets to wear while we were racing in the woods. The helmets made Hal want to drive faster. I never thought about wrecking before, but we went riding after lunch and hit a gum tree head on. The battery flew out of the front grill and jerked the police light from the top of the truck, and it flew like a kite tail for 25 yards until it whipped into a tree and then shattered into splinters. Both of us hit our heads on the windshield and knocked the spiderweb glass onto the truck hood. We rocked back into our seats and looked at each other. Whoa, horsey, Hal yelled. I pulled off my helmet and shouted, what else you got? The truck was still running, and Hal racked it into gear and backed away from the tree. The windshield fell off into the weeds. We drove up the track to where the battery lay in the pine needles. Hal got out and followed the wire that led to the police light. When he saw the mangled piece of aluminum, he looked back at me and spit. Damn tree. After getting the battery under the hood again, we made another trip to the field of wrecked cars. We found a windshield, a new grill, some headlights, a hood, and a horn off the top of a Peterbilt truck. We put all these things in the back of the bed and then started back. That afternoon and night, we worked at the equipment shed installing all the new parts. We put the windshield on first since so much dust and so many bugs had gotten all over us driving without it. After that, Hal screwed the horn to his roof. Hey, Moon, I looked up. What? I'll show you what else I got. And then Hal pressed the button for the horn. I covered it. It was so loud I covered my ears as the sound echoed across the bottom of the clay pit and went skyward. The bloodhounds howled, howled, howled from up in the trailer, and the forest creatures ducked away, and I fell silent. Before long, Mr. Mitchell was shuffling down the road towards us without any clothes on. What? He yelled. I ain't calling you, Hal said back at him. Mr. Mitchell made a motion like he was waving flies in front of his face and continued toward us. He gonna care that you mashed up the front of his truck, I asked Hal. Hell no, he knows how to fix it better than I do. He knows how to fix it up better than you. When Mr. Mitchell got to the truck, he stopped. He stared at it. He was swaying so much I thought he might fall over. His cheek bulged with tobacco, so that when he spoke, you could barely understand him. You boys, he said. He looked away and spit. He was quiet for a minute and seemed to have forgotten what he was going to say. Finally, he looked at Hal again and went, "Dang," was all he said. He turned around and began to walk up the hill. The next morning, we went into town to get oil for Mr. Mitchell. "You gonna pass by that laundromat?" "Yeah." "You want to try to call Kid again?" "Yeah." We pulled into the laundromat and went inside. I sat on the table next to the payphone while Hal put in the money and dialed the number. He listened for a few seconds and then handed me the phone. "You know how to do it this time?" I nodded and pressed it to my ear. And when the woman answered, I looked at Hal when I spoke. Can I have Kit Slip's room, please?" "Hold, please," she said. I felt my hands shaking while I listened to the music player over the telephone. "Got music playing," I told Hal. "Shh," he said, "they're getting him." After almost a minute, she picked up the telephone again. May I have your name and telephone number, and I'll have them call you back." I can't. This isn't my phone. May I have your name, please?" "What for?" "Well, Constable Sanders requested." "Sanders?" I said. "Excuse me? I'm not falling for Sanders' trick." "I'm sorry. I'll have to." Click. I hung up. "What about Sanders?" Hal asked me. "He's getting names and numbers of people who call." "Man, he's looking for us," Hal said. "I gotta go check on Kit." "The hell? What if Sanders is like hurting him?" "Sanders can't do anything to him at the hospital. Law can do whatever they want." Hal began walking back toward the truck. "I ain't ready to go to Hellwater yet." "Where are you going?" I yelled at him. "Get back in the truck, Boone. Let's go home." I started walking up the road away from him. "Oh, fine," Hal yelled at me. "Just great. You go ahead and you walk to Tuscaloosa." I decided I would. I heard Hal drive the truck off in the other direction. Looking at the sun, I figured that by the time of day and direction that I was headed, only a few minutes passed before I heard Hal coming back. He drove along beside me and talked out of the window. "You know where you're going?" "Tuscaloosa." "You know how far it is?" "Probably 50 miles, I reckon. At least." Hal shook his head. "Man, I ought to let you walk. You don't even know what road to take." I know you don't need any damn roads." Hal said. "Now get in." "You taking me to Tuscaloosa?" "Yeah, I'll take you, but I ain't going in." I smiled. Hal stopped the truck and I got in. "And you ain't gonna wear those clothes I get you. You'll stand out for sure. You got something else for me?" "Yeah, we'll get you fixed up at the trailer and go to Tuscaloosa after lunch." "Thanks, Hal." Man, you're stubborn as hell. We'll stop there for today.